Hey, buddy. How you doing this week?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Handsome as ever.
Indeed.
So I've got you here today because I figure, might as well do some homework. Take a look at some homework.
That's good. School's back in. We'll do some homework.
So the homework that we had last episode is we wanted to do cross-site scripting, right?
That's right.
Cool.
And we had said to do stored and reflected or something like that. Persistent and reflected.
Did we? All right. So let's take a quick look. Jumping on over here. This is our our box that can be messed with. So as you guys remember from the last one, we installed this, super straightforward. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start everything up.
And load it up Mutillidae.
And then here we go. So 127.0.0.1/Mutillidae so that I can go ahead and run it. And we're going to take a look at cross-site scripting, reflected first order. Before we do this, I'm going to go really quickly over some of the things that I might actually try and use.
Okay.
One of the cool things that we had were some of these little scripts. So the first one we're going to take a look at here is this. This is a really basic script, and all it does is it tells JavaScript to pop up an alert box, like a little error message, boink, in the middle of the screen. And in there I can put whatever I want. Hello. If that works, that lets me know that I can go ahead and I can start using scripts like this. And that means that the site is vulnerable. So pretty quick way for me to check.
And this is a feature of HTML, right? So HTML, hypertext markup language, you're not just looking at documents on there, you're looking at something that tells the browser how to render whatever you're looking at. So it could add an image, you could do a bunch of stuff. In this scenario, it's calling a script. Right. And the script would be JavaScript, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this just because I'm going to be using it momentarily. So if we take a look here in the cross-site scripting, where'd it go? There we go. Yeah. I'm just going to grab this first one here. They have a little form that gives you the option to do a DNS lookup. So if I try and look something up, I don't know, Frank. Takes a little while. It comes back here and it says, it gives me the results for Frank. So that means that it's actually displaying whatever it is that I've looked up.
Okay. So the Frank is what you put in there. So if you did an actual DNS name like frank.com,
it might give me a result.
Different?
There you go.
And is this because your virtual box doesn't actually have access to the internet and can't look up stuff?
Very likely.
Okay.
But at any rate,
so
the thing that we want to know is that it actually displays what I've looked up here.
Right.
So
before we go any further, can you bring up the source for this webpage?
Yep.
So this is all the HTML code that makes up this component. You can see in there, script type equals JavaScript.
We have a couple of those here.
And the web server you're going to, typically different than the website that you're on, or a web browser that you're using, I mean. But the web server through JavaScript is actually making your web browser do the work, and the computer that's launching the web browser to do the work. That would be a lookup in this case.
Right.
So it's important to think of that context, that there's two separate components. There's the server side and then there's the browser side, just for the purposes of today's exercise.
Cool. All right. So we're going to jump back here, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use that first script that we had. So script alert And then I want the alert to pop up and say, hello. And then end the script. I know I copied it, but I figured this makes more sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that in. And when I submit this, if all goes according to plan, there you go. I've got a little pop-up box here and it shows hello in the pop-up box.
And where you would normally get the results for and whatever you were putting in there reflected back at you, right? So instead of results for Frank or frank.com, that's blank because you wouldn't actually see what the script tags are. It's a command for the browser to do.
Interestingly enough, if I were to do this, I bet you in the code itself, it will show this script that I've written. So I should see here, if I expand this, results for script, alert, hello. This is the script that I've written. So whenever you have a script in tags like this, it doesn't actually display on the page.
Right.
So you'll just see script and then the script that I've asked it to run, which means that it is sitting here.
Yeah.
But it's not visible because it's not visible.
And the browser takes it out and goes, oh, this is a script for me to run. I'm just going to run the script and it's going to pop up that hello there.
Right. So now if we go back to our list of evil scripts, there is another script that you can run, which would be the same alert box. And it tries to check and see if there are any cookies for this site. And if there are, it will display those cookies inside another pop-up box.
Okay.
So let's try and replace that old one.
And while we do this, it's important to note that cookies are only displayable or retrievable on the website that there are, because modern browsers, well, in fact, the whole theory of cookies is you don't want another website to pull up your cookie because your cookie for the website that you want to go to has things like configurations. It might have your session state. So if you have to log in first, the way that the website remembers you across a bunch of things is through session states. So it's your unique identifier. So there's a same origin policy on browsers that makes sure that only the website you're going to can retrieve the cookie from your machine.
Right. So while you were talking, I just did a little thing. It doesn't actually matter to what we're doing. Pardon me. It doesn't matter to what we're doing, but it makes it so that you can actually see the entire script that's written here. So
Okay.
what I've done is in this box, if you right click, you'll have an option for inspect element. If you select inspect element, then you will see this is the input ID that it was requesting.
Right.
And it gives a size. The size was initially 20, but I want it to be larger so that I can see so that we can all see what's written in here. So I've changed it to 100.
Okay. And this is the way that your browser can just change what it's showing you on the fly.
Yeah.
Good.
So now we see the script alert and then document.cookie and then /script. So let's go ahead. And you can see there is a cookie created for this site.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what it's giving me. I've got show hints equals 1. I've got a PHP session ID.
Right.
And
so PHP is a server side component, right? Where there's different kinds of scripts. There's the scripts that you run on the browser. So there's the JavaScript that runs on every computer that's visiting the site. Usually you'll get like drop-down menus for this. That as soon as you select something, it brings up another smaller subset of options. So you'll get these on like driver support web pages that you go to, for instance. And that's the JavaScript. So all the code's there, but instead of overwhelming the user, it only shows a component of it. There's the other side where it's a server-side script, and the server-side script actually dynamically changes what gets put back through HTML to the user without putting the burden on the user's computer. So for security purposes, I kind of like server-side scripts a little bit better, and I like client-side scripts like JavaScript. just for, things, but it all depends on what you're trying to achieve. What's your objective? So if you want to make the user interface a little bit easier, but give them all the options on their computer, then you might do JavaScript.
Right.
Okay. So, but the session ID then is how the web server is remembering your session through this PHP server side. So it creates a session ID for you, hands it off to your browser, and your browser puts that into the cookie, so that if 5 people are using the website, they'll all have different and unique PHP session IDs. Right. So this is how your browser says, instead of having to log in for every web page that it sees, that to track you.
Right.
All right. We'll get to why that's important a little later.
Will we? Okay.
Sure.
So from here now, basically this is as far as I've gone. I've confirmed that it is in fact vulnerable. I've made sure that I can add and run scripts on it. Then I didn't really go that much further on this one.
Okay. So a script is the way that you can have stuff run on your machine, like so JavaScript, right? It's running on your machine. And I keep stressing this over and over again. So how would somebody abuse this kind of reflected cross-site scripting vulnerability? If I was a bad guy, what would I do with this? I don't want to attack myself, obviously, right? So how could I use this to attack somebody else?
I don't know how.
So if I sent you an email, like a phishing email, and in it I had a link, right, saying you have to log into the web page, and it contained the code needed to activate this cross-site scripting thing when you first arrived at it. You, as the victim that opens up the email, clicks on the link, right? You're running the script on your computer, and I could abuse that privilege. For instance, taking your session ID and sending it to me, the bad guy, right, through another channel by you running the script after you log into the machine, and then I get your session ID, and then I can masquerade as you. So if you think of like online purchasing environments, right, maybe now I can masquerade as you, put in a new address location after you've logged in, and maybe, excuse me. So sessions, you want to log off of your session at all times, so that if there's any sort of remnant session ID out there, you kill that session by clicking that log off button, right? And that will typically activate something on the server side that says this person's session's done. So on well-constructed websites, it would do that. So even if somebody did manage to steal my session through this, as long as I don't just click on the X in the top right corner and close the window, my session is active. So it would be confusing to the server that there was 2 things going on at the same time with the same session ID sometimes. But if I click the logout button, then you get logged out too as the attacker.
Right.
So say typically people just click on the X in the top right corner and leave themselves logged in. Somebody could have used that, wait for the person to click on that top right corner, and then take over their session. And this could be very good if you're, so from a bad guy perspective, it's very good if you phish somebody who's an administrator, right? Because they log in with their admin account and then they close the session. And now you are as an attacker, an admin of that website. Right. So then you can add new users, you can browse other users. Maybe the website has something stupid like credit card numbers, or maybe you just want a list of addresses, right? So you can do this, or maybe you just want to manipulate the web page now as an administrator to start serving up malicious content to the people that visit the website, right? Maybe now in the background, the script, instead of just asking for somebody to input something or creating a drop-down list, maybe now it's telling that person's computer to download a malicious piece of software that you've uploaded to that server through the admin access that you've stolen from somebody else, right? And then execute and run that program. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. The cross-site scripting is that thin out of the edge of the wedge that gets you to run stuff on other people's computers.
Right. Okay. Then at that point, we were talking about doing the cross-site scripting persistent second order.
Yep.
Okay.
So persistent cross-site scripting is a little bit more fun and tangible.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab persistent second order and add to your blog. So let's say this blog specifically, I am not signed in any way. So it allows me to add to the blog for anonymous. Mm-hmm. And it says, note, these tags are now allowed in blog entries. So B is bold, I is italic, U is underline. If it's allowing some tags in this format, the regular tag format, again, it might allow all tags. So quick and easy test is include a tag that isn't regularly used or isn't used in these examples. So hello, and then do a line, a horizontal rule. And after I click submit, it goes ahead and it shows, and it gives me the line here. Mm-hmm. So that means it's allowing pretty much any tag, which then means I can go ahead and I can try again using our script.
You can also see through that entry there that somebody had entered some input before you. Mm-hmm. So the server is remembering what other people had put in before you and displaying it back to you. So this is where it's persistent, right?
Right.
It's not just the session in which you're browsing in, it's the other people that were there first.
Right. So this allows anonymous posting that everyone will be able to see instantaneously. There's no, as far as you can tell at any rate, there's no moderation because it's showing up right away. So if I go ahead and I use our script that we figured out earlier, script alert, hello, and I save the blog entry, you can see automatically as soon as I hit save, it comes up with this pop-up because now I've left a blank comment here, but there's that script that popped up. If I reload this page.
Mm-hmm. So say somebody else went and visited the web page.
Oh, actually, now I've done it twice. Let's go. There we go. So now I've got two of them. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reset the database to get rid of these so that every time this page loads, I don't get more of them. However, let's say that being a little bit annoying wasn't your only goal. And you wanted to potentially see if you can load another page inside their page. So here we've got a script for an iframe, which is an inline frame. It's a little frame that pops up on the page wherever you end up putting it. Mm-hmm. And you can set the source for that iframe. So in this case, the source of this frame, I'm going to have a little box, and inside that box, the source of it is going to be, in this case, let's try cnn.com. All right.
Okay.
So iframe source equals and / iframe.
Yep.
Save blog entry. So far, nothing. No big pop-up. That works for me. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but in the little corner here, I had something like 500 million things loading, which is pretty indicative of CNN. So here we go. Now I've got all of CNN's website. Whoops. All of CNN's website.
Yeah.
Is embedded in this page.
And so why might somebody want to do that?
Well, let's say that I was malicious and I wanted to embed something in the page.
Mm-hmm.
I could do, instead of maybe CNN, I might want to do something like, a login, just log in and password and a submit button. So they're going to see just a little box here that shows login, password, submit. There's not going to be as much scrolling, obviously, and there's not going to be CNN. Mm-hmm. People may easily mistake that for the login information for this site. They may then give their login information. And because I can put any site I want, mm-hmm. I can have it as my own site so that anytime they enter it in, I'm able to record all of that. I could even go so far as to do, I'm going to reset the database again because I don't want to reload CNN. I could even go so far as just to completely hijack the page. So here's the third script that I like, script, and then the location, the window location. So your browser, every time you have a page loaded, JavaScript refers to this as the window location.
Okay.
So your window location, I want it to change to equal a different site. So in this case, I want it to change to equal my website. So if I go on to, say, I don't know, any other security blog's website, and I don't want people listening to that security podcast, I want them listening to mine, I could hijack it by doing something as simple as this. So now let's watch. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit it, and the page loads. That's normal. That's fine. Oh, wait a minute.
So it's
without me doing anything, it's automatically redirected me to this page.
Fantastic.
So, a couple of things. First off, the traffic example that I gave, let's say that I'm, malicious, but not really malicious. Mm-hmm. That's mostly just a hindrance. However, if I were to make a page, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to reset the database in time. There you go. If I were to make a page, and again, that because it's persistent, I'm going to put it back in here. So there you go. It automatically redirected me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to the page here. And then I refresh the page. Oh, whoops. So let's say someone else tries to come to this page and they load the page. Redirected again. And it just keeps happening, right? Because that script is still there. Of course, now there's CNN there as well, which isn't there, but I just was using the back button. So there we go. It's gone. Let's say that I was super malicious. I could make a page that looks exactly like this as you showed us before. If I go to right click and view page source, then I can actually copy all of their source. So I don't even have to put a lot of effort into making my page look exactly like their page. I just have to steal their code directly. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I put, all of these things, view, log, reset, database. Up here, you've got a login option. I don't know where it is. There you go. Login/register. Right, so if you got a login register option and all of a sudden you're redirected to another page, then you don't notice, because the noticeable difference when it was loading our site is that our site looked completely different. If the site looks exactly the same and you redirect, then you're never going to know that you're on a different site. That's true. At that point, things like resetting your password. Oh, just go ahead and put in all your security questions, purchasing products. Oh, yes, absolutely. Just submit your credit card information. I'm on board with that. I'll go ahead and I'll take that and I'll, malicious it up.
Right.
But you don't have to.
Another thing combining a couple of the ideas that you've already talked about is iframes don't have to be displayed in a small portion of it. You can actually redirect where an iframe is loaded up. So what some malicious sites do, or what some malicious people do, when they find a website like this that has a login box, right, and a cross-site and a persistent cross-site scripting problem, they can make an invisible iframe that overlays the login box where you'd put your credentials, and they just capture. They're acting like a shim in the credit card in the ATM machines, right? Where you capture what somebody's inputting and you still pass it through to the background, but then you also siphon off that information to yourself. So somebody might not even know that something's not working, and yet you've stolen the credentials.
Let's see if we can do that. And I'm going to make it actually 80% of the page. So you should still see page underneath.
Okay.
All right. So all I've done here is I've taken our old iframe. I don't know whether this will work. This is experimental. Taken our old iframe. I've thrown in style. So this is CSS declarations. So I want the position to be absolute. I want it to be on the top from 0 pixels from the top, 0 pixels from the left. I want the height of this box, this iframe, to be 80% of the screen. I want the width of this iframe to be 80% of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was virtually seconds. Let's see if it works.
Something going on there.
I got the height. So I got the positioning. And then I've got the it taking up all of this page automatically.
Right.
And that was, a couple of seconds of coding there. Spec element. Let's see if I might have misspelled height while typing quickly. Position absolute, top left, height equals, height is 80%. No, the height was right. Width, 80.
Yeah, the width was wrong.
Source.
Anyways, but it demonstrates the point. So if you had your syntax correct.
I had an equal here, whatever, at the end. Doesn't matter. Suffice to say that.
So you can overlay these iframes, and you can make it so that there's not scroll bars, and you can make it so it's transparent, so you don't actually see it, and it just acts like a shim in between the user and what they're inputting.
So some of you may have seen websites that have like an overlay that gives you pretend ransomware. So the pretend ransomware is just an overlay like this, and all it does is it pops up a window that looks like a window, but is in actuality just something as simple as this that says, "Warning, your computer machine might take over bad guys. You done too many bad things. Send us monies." Usually very poorly written, which I always find entertaining. At any rate, that's a way that you can be malicious and use a persistent scripting, and you can start messing with other people's sites. So there we go.
And so in the interest of time, we won't cover all of these things. Just to, if you can mouse over those again, maybe I'll just speak to a couple real quickly.
Sure. So reflected first order.
So we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about the persistent one. So there's the stuff that stays on the web page, and then there's the stuff that has to go to the web page and then only comes right back to the user. A DOM is something that actually doesn't even hit the server. It's just something that happens on the browser itself. So that's why you'd have like HTML5. This is something the browser would do. So it could retrieve stuff as if it was going to the right web server, but not actually have to hit the web server to talk to it. Then we can see that there's other types of code that we can do. So XML injection is now we're getting in the communication pathway and making somebody talk XML. So now something else gets rendered or something else gets requested that they didn't originally ask for. So maybe the web server has something like a address for an individual and you're a stalker and you only know their email address and you want to get their physical address. So you can get XML injection from there. JSON is like XML essentially for mobile apps. And then everything else is just kind of a change of that. Cookies, maybe you can change somebody's settings to do whatever malicious you can think of that depends on cookies. So maybe you just want to prank somebody, so you do black text on a black background as a preference for the person. Who knows? Or maybe this is where you want to start manipulating cookies yourself, so you can start changing your session identifier as you go and hope to take over somebody else's session, maybe an administrator session. So there's lots of different bad stuff that can happen. So how do we stop this?
Properly setting up our web server. The easiest one is just to go back to this, is this tags thing. If I allow these tags to happen, then, trouble starts brewing, because I have to be really careful, and I have to say I can only allow these ones.
Right. So there's a couple different components to it. There's one is, what you allow the user to input, and you can do input sanitization, where you can say, hey, instead of actually doing a less than bracket and then having, all of the bad stuff that might mean, or an apostrophe in the case of the SQL injection, right? Instead of doing those things and allowing that to get input into the server, then you can actually escape that out and make it what the HTML equivalent would be, if your purpose is eventually to, display this back to a user. Or you can just restrict it and say, well, we're not actually allowing this kind of input to the server, and give them a sorry message.
So I'm going to try this really quick. Ampersand greater than, ampersand less than. These are the HTML code equivalents. So if you do them, then it'll display the same way. So if, for instance, you have a website where you want people to be able to display code, what you do is, when you're sanitizing your inputs, you simply make it so that they are replaced by these HTML elements. Right. And of course, there is a huge list of all of them available online.
Right. And because there's different language types, maybe somebody would say, hey, check out my website, and it looks like something different, but they're using a different character set. So maybe they're using like a Cyrillic character set instead of an English character set that somebody's thinking that they're going to. So this is another way of obfuscating and tricking people. Less cross-site scripting related, though. So more along the lines of, if you're going to be super specific at what you're filtering out in terms of user input, there might be more than you're considering. So somebody could put in a website based on, other information instead of just HTTP://. So when you're sanitizing input, consider more than one factor. And certainly when you're sending something back to the user, expect the unexpected and play around with this stuff. Learn it so you can play with it, so you can break it, so you can fix it.
I don't know if you can see this, but I got this tiny little fruit fly buzzing around. It's annoying me. It's probably because I thought that I would have a little glass of wine.
Right. Oh, wow. That's a big glass of wine.
With the podcast, or sorry, with the video. But maybe now I've drank it, so it might be gone. At any rate, if you think that this is helpful, let us know. We'll be more than happy to. If you would rather us touch on any specific ones that we didn't, also let us know. You can, what's all the stuff we're supposed to say? Email us to feedback visit our website at in-security.org for show notes, past episodes, links to our YouTube channel.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Leave comments.
Yes.
You can follow us on Twitter at Insecurity Show.
You can email us at feedback@in-security.org.
You can leave comments. You can subscribe. Didn't do the buttons because I hate that. But you can, leave comments, subscribe, like us on Facebook. We don't have Facebook, do we?
No.
Like us on Facebook.
We're just rambling now. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this.
Support us on Patreon. We don't have Patreon either, do we?
No.
Listen to Audible. I don't know, man. I know that everyone says all these things, so I figured there's a reason. At any rate, let us know if you think it's helpful. We'll be more than happy to do some more. Have yourself a great week.
Thanks. You too.